Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Intergenerational and Veterans Day service. The ringing of the kansho signifies the start of the service. Please sit quietly. Please rise for the meditation, followed by the chanting of the Vandana Ti-Sarana by the congregation in Pali and English. Please be seated. Please turn to page 46 of the Jodo Shinshu service book for the Sutra Sanbutsuge.
Jipora Shinetsu shoujo ito ga koku keraku anon gobun shimyo zega shinsho dongan no hi rikisho shoyoku possession chi emuge joryo shison chi ga shinyo keryo shinshi shokudo okucho gagyo shoin nijuke namanabu
Please rise and turn to page 2 in the same book for the recitation Homages. Hard it is to be born into human life, now we are living in it. Difficult it is to hear
the teachings of the Blessed.
Now hear. Do not gain emancipation in this present life. May not be free from ill-bearing in the oceans of birth and death for kalpas. Let us reverently take the true treasure.
We go to the Buddha for guidance.
May we always walk in the way that leads to enlightenment. We go to the Dharma for guidance. May we be submerged in the depth of the teachings and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. We go to the Sangha for guidance. May we all, with one accord, live the life of harmony in the spirit of oneness, free from the bondage of selfishness. Even through myriads of kalpas, hard it is to hear such excellent and profound teachings. Now we are able to hear and receive them. Let us try to understand the Tathagata's teachings. Namandas, namandas, namandas. It's easy to get confused. Please continue to stand for the Gatha. Buddha loves you on page 24 in the brown pages, Praises of the Buddha book. job. Good job. Be seated. Today's Dharma talk will be given by our new minister, Reverend Barbara Brennan.
Thank you for that applause. My goodness. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Well, you already know who I am. I'm Reverend Barbara Brennan, but I would like to be called Reverend Barbara. You can leave the last name off. It's less formal that way. After receiving Tokudo, which is the first level of being a minister, I was called Sensei. So saying Reverend Barbara is great, all right? I'm so honored and humbled to be the Reverend here at your temple. To be honest with you, when I was called in by the bishop, we have such a shortage at Betsuin. I thought, oh, okay, I'll be able to help there. He says, oh, I want you to go to Windward. I go, Windward, so, okay, drive over the Pali, which is a new experience to do it so often. But it's just been so wonderful to meet so many of you, and I can tell the environment is so warm and friendly. And you're so lucky to have these wonderful folks who have gone through training as minister lay assistants, and they are the backbone, I'll tell you, for your services, and I really appreciate it. More of you can do it, Okay, well, you know that this Friday is Veterans Day, a very important national holiday, and I do want to share a quote, very short quote. Veterans are a symbol of what makes our nation great, and we must never forget all they have done to ensure our freedom. A lot of people visit Punchbowl National Cemetery. It can be a very busy place, especially this week. When we used to have relatives and friends come, my husband Barry would always take them on this nickel tour. He meets them at the airport, and so he'd drive them through Waikiki and along the beaches, but he would always end up at Punchbowl. It's just such a quiet, beautiful place with lots of memories for so many people. We had Barry intern there last year, so it's even more special for me now. When I first came, I also visited Punchbowl. I came 55 years ago, and we never really meant to stay, but that's kind of a different story. Soon after I visited Hawaii Betsuin, soon after arriving, I visited Hawaii Betsuin. And on reflection, I'm filled with gratitude for being able to join a temple, because I grew up going to temple often. That was how I was grounded in life. And so to still be in Hawaii today, it's because of the Dharma and the friends that we made. To give you some background, I grew up in Arizona, and all my family were Jodo Shinshu Buddhists. In our house, the altar was built right into the wall in the living room, and so we always saw the Amida there, and we were able to offer incense daily. As kids, we learned two important concepts: itadakimasu, and the meaning behind it, and gochiso-sama. Whenever we ate, we couldn't eat until we said that, and we had to say gochiso-sama afterwards. And I didn't realize how important that was and has been. I've passed this family tradition on to my two grandkids, well, my children, first of all, but our grandkids start off with words of appreciation that they learned at Hongaji Mission School. So I'm very grateful that they're aware and they do that. The fun thing about eating is after we say our words of thanksgiving, they always say, we always do a cheers, and that could just be with water or their milk, or it could be wine or beer, whatever. But we always raise a glass and say, cheers, Grandpa, cheers to family members who've passed on. So it's always a constant memory for them, realizing that they're always with us. So sharing family history and stories really does connect each of us. Sorry. We depend on each other in good times and not so good times. Reflecting on my family history has made me appreciate the legacy which has enabled me to become grounded in the Buddha Dharma. First, my grandfather Ishikawa, that was my mother's father, he left Hiroshima as a farmer and went to Big Island first and discovered he could only work on the plantation, he could not farm. So he continued to San Francisco and he even tried working on the railroad, but then he heard about wonderful land in Arizona where farming was really good. So he planted citrus trees and vegetable crops, and that was around 1910. When World War II broke out 30 years later, because of Executive Order 9066, all Japanese Americans and Japanese were required to leave Washington, Oregon, California, and the southern part of Arizona. But fortunately for the Ishikawas, their property was within this military boundary that went through the West Coast, so they were able to stay where they were. But like my mom and dad were in Los Angeles, and they didn't go to camp. A lot of their friends did, taking only a few possessions with them. But because the Ishikawas were farmers, they had an extra workers' house, so they were able to come to Mesa. That was hard for my dad because he was always a city person, so he had to quickly learn how to farm. But my mother was actually, she didn't show joy, but she was happy. And I found this more later when I talked to her on the porch when she was like in her late 90s. And she had these memories that, oh my gosh, Japantown was so noisy. I just didn't like it. And I go, oh my goodness. So in a way, my mother was very fortunate that they had to return to Arizona. Although I never knew my father's father, my grandfather Sato, he was Nobuyoshi Sato. He had quite a history, as it turns out. He wrote a book called The True Steadfast Diamond Faith. And he was only in Arizona from 41 to 42, after which he passed away because he was an invalid. He was very frail, but his mind was very, very sharp. And he wrote this book without any of his books because they were limited in what they could pack up and take on the train to come to Arizona. He was quite smart. He graduated from Waseda University and then traveled to the United States to go to Northwestern and Princeton to further his law studies. But the Asian exclusion clause prevented him from taking the bar. But, early on, he was able to help all these farmers in California who really needed help. And that was his mission, so to speak. He wrote this book, The True Steadfast Diamond Faith, because he was dedicated to the Dharma and he wanted something to pass on down to his own children, his grandchildren, me, and future generations. My dad, Carl Sato, was also very active on the Buddhist scene. He was a member of the BCA board and served a long time there. And I think one of his ulterior motives was so that he could fly to San Francisco regularly so he could see his friends from Los Angeles and other places, because their friendships were very strong. The ties were very, very strong. Let's see. My mother was the eldest of 6 daughters. Her only brother died. He was the eldest in the family. He died from an unfortunate accident. This older brother was named Zedo Ishikawa. In Japanese, it was Jiro, but people could not pronounce Jiro, so it became Z-E-D-O. My grandfather and a friend of his were discussing something really important, and they heard the noise of the dogs outside. You know, they lived right in the citrus grove. And so after Zedo came home from his Boy Scout meeting, he asked him to please go out and stop those dogs from barking because they couldn't concentrate on this very important discussion. Well, he didn't realize that the shotgun by the door was not empty, so when he went out to separate the dogs with the butt of the gun, it went off and it hit him in the chest. And they all went out there to see what was happening, and apparently my grandfather Ishikawa knew that it was quite serious, and Mesa was a small farming community, so the hospital was a long drive away. Well, his final words to grandfather Ishikawa was reciting the Nembutsu together, Namu, Amida, Butsu, being reassured that they would see each other in the Pure Land. This is what Ishikawa no Oji-san said. Zedo also asked him to tell the coach to carry on, and the football team, because Zedo was one of the star players on the football team as a senior. And they were going to have a big game that weekend. When they learned later of Zedo's untimely death and his final words, carry on, the school decided on a new motto and alma mater, carry on, Mesa High. In 1933, my grandparents established the Ishikawa Trophy to honor Zedo and outstanding athletes, and this went on for 80 years. A few years ago, they still do that, but a few years ago they included women in this award, so that's really nice. So all of us cousins send in our shared donation so that these scholarships, these awards can be given to them. Also, the Ishikawa family was honored about 25 years ago in 1997 with the naming of a new elementary school. And although they wanted to honor my grandfather, his first name was Kurataro. So that's kind of hard to say, Kurataro Elementary School. So instead they called it the Zedo Ishikawa Elementary School. So my grandparents also reflected the Nembutsu in their daily life. You know, I remember as a child, we loved going to my grandmother Ishikawa's house because she had the big TV. And all of us cousins would sit around watching the really noisy program. And she would be lying on her couch with her nenju in her hand saying, Namanda, Namanda, Namu Amida Butsu. And we looked at her and we thought, okay, but she never scolded us, and she just continued to do that. So it was in her heart. She had never attended seminars, you know, or continuing education like we do these days, but Reverend Hosen Seki, who founded the temple in Arizona, along with other ministers later, she would always listen to their messages, and that became her life, you know, to really try to understand the Dharma and to live the Dharma. So all of these karmic events have led to my being able to share this story with you this morning. I came to Honolulu from Arizona in 1967 and never returned permanently as we had intended. My husband was hired by the University of Hawaii after receiving his PhD in 1975. my life, our life has been this series of karmic events. The gift of friendship and the gift of the Nembutsu have been the key for staying in Hawaii. Now, as a minister, I hope to continue to share the Dharma with others, with all of you. The legacy to carry on the Nembutsu life comes from family, ministers, friends, and a myriad of experiences. The Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha embraces us. And so we are able to carry on in life with the Nembutsu today. I wish you all a thoughtful Veterans Day and continued good health. I look forward to hearing your family stories in the days and months to come. With hands together, please join me. Let us recite the Nembutsu. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. Namu Amida Butsu. Namanda, namanda. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Barbara, for sharing such interesting stories. Look forward to many more. Please rise for the Gatha Namu Amida Butsu on page 104 in the Brown Book, and then continue to stand for the Nembutsu, which is on page 107.
When
wisdom shine into our minds and truly awaken us to our ignorance, and by this insight, stir us to strive for a life of deeper understanding and enlightenment. Namu, Amida.
Please be seated. This concludes our service. And let's see if we have any announcements.
Good morning. And thank you, Reverend Barbara. Thank you. It was very nice.
Thank you.
And you all noticed we have a new piano. Made a lot of noise though. Yeah, it's a brand new one. The other one was, I guess, not doing so well. Today's volunteers, thank you, Linda, for serving as MC, Alan as our greeter, and Lisa for playing our brand new piano, and Merle and her refreshment team for refreshments today. Announcements. Next week is our Eitaikyo service with guest speaker Reverend Hashimoto from Wahiawa, so he'll be here. November 20th is our family service, and our annual membership meeting is scheduled for December 11th, Sunday, right after our service. And we're going to serve bento after the service, so if you haven't ordered your bento or put in your request, please do so. And I think anyone else who's willing to help with the refreshment committee, the clipboard with the sign up is still there. We'll put it up for this week only. Let's see. Next week is our last day for food bank collection, and then we'll be delivering whatever we collect to the food bank. And thank you for starting to make our chain. I think all of you should have had 5 strips of colored paper so you could have 5 things you're thankful for. And in case some of you can't think of any, what does the Reverend always tell us? There's always 3 things: the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So you come up with the last 2. And thank you to Everly. She's been helping us put the chain together, and it'll go around that lighted birch tree or whatever, the white thing in the back. And then as far as your hands go, for those of you that was here 7 years ago, that was the first time we had our Grateful Hands tree. And I still have some of the hands that I collected from that tree. I don't have all of yours, but for adults, our hands don't change much. But you should see Everly's, her hand was this small, and she's carrying it around on her wrist right now. And we didn't even have Jet here yet, so we're going to we'll have the children help us put those together, and then we'll hang that on the tree as well. Okay, one more thing. Yesterday, Dennis, Allen, and I went representing Windward Buddhist Temple as part of the Honolulu Council. The Butsuing Social Concerns Committee had arranged for us to visit, there's a place, Ho'olu'aina. It's way in Kalihi Valley, and they have like 100 acres of land, and it's part of I think their health center, and they serve all of the Kalihi area, and they grow organic vegetables. They have a section of their area that has nothing but medicinal plants, and so it was a very interesting visit. I guess the intent is that it might be something that collectively the Honganji could help them in their efforts. It's very Buddhistic. I mean, at the end, we go in a circle, and then the leader says, we come together in the attitude of gratitude. I go, I've heard that before. But anyway, they gave us some tea, and it's made of mamaki and hau'oi. So I put them in little packets, and it's out there if some of you might want to steep and make a cup of this tea. When we were there, they had included lemongrass in it. It was very delicious. But there's no lemongrass in this one. And they sell this at their store that's down by School Street, I guess. So, any announcements? Come on up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, this is birthday Sunday. So any birthdays in November, please stand. Come on. Yay. Okay. Jennifer's the only one. Okay, we'll sing to Jenny as soon as she gets her lei. Okay, thank you. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, but no dancing, you know. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jen. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Now you can go sit down. And then just a reminder that next week Sunday is bingo. So we'll see you then.
Okay, there's some new faces today that wasn't here last Sunday, so let me just briefly tell you what we're doing. The tree out there, that's not a Christmas tree, that's a Bodhi tree. We are partnering with Salvation Army on their Angel Tree program. And you're going to notice there's tags hanging on there right now. There's age group, the keikis, up to I think 13 years old, and they have the ages on that tag. And there's kapunas, seniors 55 and over. There's a couple on there, when I went through the tags, actually it's a family, like 4 kids and a mom or dad. So some of them are families, all individually tagged, and some are just individuals. But anyway, when you go out there, you look at the tags, they have 3 wishes on there. What Salvation Army says is, if possible, try to fulfill 2 of the wishes. The 3rd is optional. And their average in the past has been around $40. That's not a minimum, that's not a maximum, it's up to you. But that was their average in the past and what they do. When you go there, the bottom half is perforated. Tear off the bottom half of the tag. I'll be on the table out there. You need to fill out one of these forms. And it basically is just your name and your phone number and the tag number. That's just in case I gotta call you to bring you the gift. The deadline is November 27th on a Sunday. There's 4 weeks to give you the 4 weeks. And we said 27th only because the following week is not church. And then the following week after that is our general meeting. So it's gonna be a hectic day. So we wanna do it before that. However, you can bring in the gift anytime prior to that on Sundays, and I'll collect it. And we'll store it here until the 27th, where we deliver it to Salvation Army. So if, after this service, if you go out there, look, just walk around that, and I'm going to have this tag up this Sunday, next Sunday, until everything's taken care of, or everything's occupied, you know, as far as pull the tag. But look at what you got. There's various things on there that people, in fact, one of them has a bicycle. But they got a lot of things, and you don't have to actually fulfill that. In fact, if you want to only do one, you can do that too. Salvation Army said it's up to you, depending on the circumstances and what they want. But I'll be out there, and hopefully I'll see you out there. Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Well, you want to remind everybody not to wrap their gifts, right?
Yeah, it's on this is an instruction sheet I'm giving you. The gifts are not wrapped. When you bring back the gift here, you bring the tag back, and keep track of what the approximate cost is, because I need the cost figure on the form. I'm going to write it on the form, and I'm going to document it, because I think Salvation may use that to try to, on a family, to try to make sure the gifts are all kind of like equal because of different kids in there. But anyway, I'll give you your sheet back, and this sheet becomes your tax receipt, and it'll have your cost on there. Anything else? Thank you.
Okay, before we go next door to have something to eat, let's have words of thanksgiving. It's in your red book, page 126, 126. We are truly grateful for this wonderful food, gift of life. May we share its benefits with all beings. As we partake of this food, let us remember Amida Buddha's compassion, which surrounds all people and all forms of life. Namu Amida. Itadakimasu. Thank you.